So I thought it'd be neat, I'll show you right here, to show you that I'm working on this painting right here. And this painting is a painting of a really incredible person, and I thought it'd be fun to show you the work that this person does. He is one of the most famous guitar makers on planet Earth of all time. So in brief, I'm painting John's portrait in my studio. And so this right here, let me pull this up, is a picture of my studio. I have John sitting right here, and then in having John sit right here, he's playing the guitar. And then I am working over here. I have all of my paints, and I just grab my brushes and I go like this, and then I work on this portrait. We got like 2 hours in yesterday on this painting, and tomorrow John is coming and we're gonna work a few more hours on the painting. So I'm just like incredibly excited to do this. I'm incredibly excited to show you guys. What's interesting to me is the whole idea of like, okay, how do you go about doing a painting? How do you go about locking in like all the shapes and the colors, and where do I start? And that's where we are going to look today at this statue right here. So you can see I have this statue right behind me, and I'll zoom over to this view so you can see I'm looking at this statue right here. And you can see how this statue, it has some things to it that we can jump into as artists, where we can find the top of this right here. We can find the bottom. We can find points in between. But then what's very interesting is we can find what's called the shadow shape. So check this out. This right here, the boundary between light and dark is called the shadow shape. So you see that really clearly spelled out right there. So again, here's light, right? Here's shadow. The boundary line in between it is called the shadow shape. And so when I draw a portrait, when I paint a portrait, I will lock in what's called the outside, right? The external contour. And if you've been taking my classes with me, you know that we can find the outside of something, right? But then I learned to see the shadow shape on the inside. So I have rich lights and rich darks. So let's go back over and look at how the room has light coming in from that window, and it creates strong shadows. So I'm gonna show you the shadow shapes right here on my painting. So as I work on this painting, one of the things I'm thinking of the whole entire time as I work on it, I will find the outside of this, but then after I find the outside of the painting, what I do is I find the boundary between light and dark, and that's the shadow shape right here. You can see how it comes down the side of the nose right here. That shadow shape. There's another shadow shape, like let's say right here. There's a shadow shape over here. Those shadow shapes, they help me to figure out where the planes change form. And when I say the planes changing direction, I should say, here's the front of your forehead. We're gonna say here's the side of your head right here. I'm really abbreviating this. Where the planes change would be, roughly speaking, right here. Front of his head, side of his head, where the planes change would be right here. That's where the light can't hit. So let's jump back over to our drawing so that we can look at the drawing. We can look at the statue, and we can come up with our own version of this. So I just have my paper right here, and then I have my statue right there. And with that, we're gonna jump in and we're gonna start mapping out our drawing. So I have this right here. What you wanna do first is you kind of wanna work on, like, let's say, a broad idea first before going too specific. So what I'm going to do before going too specific is I'm going to go like this and just kind of like map out like the broadest possible idea. That's the egg of the head right there. And then I'm gonna go with the lower part of the head right here. So I've roughly set this up in a similar position to what John's portrait is being painted in. It is definitely not the same position. I'm not saying that, but we go big right here, Then we go small right here. And that helps us to see, so we don't get like too caught up in the details. That helps us to see like the particulars. And let's jump over and take a look at John's actual portrait. And there was John sitting there the other day. And so you can see that there's something similar going on with the shadow shapes, right? So now we're back over here. And now that I've established the largest masses, now I'm going to go for a little bit more of the specifics. So I'm going to go, okay, the side of the head comes right here. Now, if you look at my paper and you say, I can't see anything the guy's drawing, like it's so light, I can't see anything that I'm drawing either. I keep it very light and ghost-like early on, and I don't really go into any specifics for a little while, and I feel my way around like it's a ghost. And so don't worry about having like hard, clear, legible lines just yet. I just kind of want my hand to flow like that. Okay, so now I see about like a third of the way down, that is where the ear is. And so let's say if we break this up into like, let's break this up into thirds. So roughly a third of the way down, a third of the way. Let's say the ear is a little bit below that. I'm gonna come a little bit more. So I was wrong about a third, it's more than that. And then it just kind of comes over like this. Now, I know I'm going to be moving a lot of these things, so I'm going to jump over to the other ear with my best guess. And you can kind of like visually say that the eyebrow line, it kind of comes about a third of the way down. It's definitely not a true third, but it more or less matches up with the eyes. And so we have that right there. So again, we're looking at this right here. Top of the head, bottom, kind of got the biggest mass up here, smaller mass right here. We mapped out the ears. The eyes are a little bit, you could say that the eyes line up with the top of the ear, but given the perspective of the camera, they're gonna be, for you, they could be like a little bit lower. So as I map everything out, I'm gonna give him like sunglasses. Instead of like real eye cavity eyes, I'm gonna give you like the eye cavities. So it's useful for a moment to think in terms of the skeleton. So if you look at the skeleton right here, do you see how the skeleton has the huge cavities right here? And I could change the position of it and, you know, like try to like, I'm not gonna be able to get it like perfect for you right here right now, but before you draw eyes, try and draw eye sockets. So when you draw eye sockets, what you're doing is you're almost like building a house inside of which the eye will sit. So there are my eye sockets, my eye cavities. There's more precise names for this. I could go into the zygomatic process, but I'm not going to do it for now because that's for another lesson. I just want to keep everything accessible and general. So now I have like, let's say right now I have a 2H pencil. Now I'm starting to feel good with how things are mapping out. Maybe I'll indicate where the lips come right here. That's roughly where the lips are. And now I'm going to swap out and I'm going to go over to a pencil that's a little bit darker. So this right here is an F pencil. And I'm just going to sharpen up right over here. And just get that nice and sharp. And now I'm going to lock in some shapes with more gusto. So I'm going to commit to this a little bit more. I'm reinforcing the outline, like vaguely speaking. I'm not getting too particular. Now I'm coming back in. The ear, I'm going to think of it almost as being like, it has like a triangular kind of shape. If you've drawn for a long time, you know what it is to draw a really, really perfect nose or a really perfect eyeball or something of that sort. And then after laboring over it for like 1,000 hours, you realize you put it in the wrong spot and then you got to pick it up and move it again. Have you guys ever had that happen? Give me a thumbs up if you've ever had it happen. So by keeping our approach pretty loose and fluid in the beginning, we are disallowing ourselves to get too caught up with any particular line or shape or anything. We're kind of exploring on the paper. So there is, right there, that is the bottom of the nose. And now what I'm going to do is I'm really going to start jumping into the shadow shape. So I feel okay with all these proportions. There's no way I could honestly feel any better because it's just too young in the drawings, too fresh, it's too new. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start mapping out that shadow shape. Before I do that, let's go back and talk. This is what I'm mapping out right here, the boundary between light and dark. I'm not going to draw any information within the nose here in the shadow. I'm going to draw the boundary between light and dark. So there are many different ways of approaching a drawing. This is not, I don't want to do what I've heard many artists do throughout my whole entire career. They say, this is the way that the old masters worked, full stop. Some old masters did work this way, and then other old masters, I think, did not. For our purposes in this lesson, I'm teaching you the shadow shape approach, and then at later points, we'll learn of other ways that you could build something like a portrait, like the head. So, okay, so now I'm going to make my way down the side of this shadow shape right here. Now, this looks weird in a sense. You could say, like, how am I drawing a nose right now? If you just trace out the shadow shape on there, then what you'll find is that you, once you start shading it in, the nose will appear on its own. So it's pretty wild. So now I'm up to the boundary between the light and dark on the lips. And the boundary between light and dark on the lips right here, it looks to me almost like the lips are somewhat of a triangle. So I'm going to show you a trick for painting and drawing the lips. You could think of all lips as being triangles, just like that. And then what you do is you cut away the triangle with an upside down like little triangle, and you erase away the middle. And that gets rid of the center of the lips. You can put like a ball in the middle of the lips right here. And just with that, you're kind of coming to like a visual trick for drawing lips. If you start putting in like two triangles at the corner right here, then you're more or less tracing out the mouth. So if you look at my lips right here, there's like a shadow shape, not really too strong like my statue, but it's like a triangle, and then it has a cut in the middle, just like that. So go ahead and feel your own lips and go like that, and feel how that cuts down right here. So I'm gonna show you how, as I do this with these lips right here, which are a little bit wider, check out how you can do this with someone's lips that are much puffier and abbreviated. And there are absolutely people who have lips that are like that. And they come up in a much more abbreviated way like this. And so some people have lips that are much more, the triangle here is much lower. It's like this. That's this triangle. The triangle here is much higher. So with these lips are much lower. Like that. The triangle is much thinner. All right, so now I'm going to jump over to, there's this little shadow right beneath his lip right here. It's this tiny little piece of shadow right here. I'm going to jump over now, and the shadow shape tells me that I want to go, roughly speaking, around his chin. And now we can go from this whole area, and let's make our way over to the jaw. Jaw comes up right here, and then the shadow comes down like so. All right, so we're not going to go too far down his neck and into his torso, but we'll just leave that roughly right there. And what we now want to do is I want to jump back up to this eye over here, which is this one is more so in shadow. So I'm going to jump over to this eye, and I'm going to trace out a rough path of where the shadow travels right here. And it's as if we're going over the form of the eye. The shadow shape turns right here. It kind of like hops around the lower eyelid. Now, if at this stage of the drawing, if you're getting pretty lost, cut yourself some slack. It's a little bit difficult what I'm teaching you today. So when I teach these lessons, I hop between really fun material, and then sometimes I'll hop over and I'll do something pretty challenging and new. And so today is in the category of challenging and new, but anything that is new is difficult in the beginning. And then in time, as you keep reworking it, as you keep addressing the same problem, let's say, you gain fluidity with it. So, okay, now I'm going to make my way up the side of his temple right here. All right, so I have this area roughly mapped out, all the shadow shapes. Now I want to jump over to this eye. I used this as somewhat of an anchor where I could really lock into this information. This right here is called the Van Dyke Z. So the Van Dyke Z is this 1, 2, 3 pattern. So the Z doesn't always face the correct way. This is a Z this way, but check this out, ready? 1, 2, 3. So on your own face, go like this. 1, travel down the side of your nose, 2, and then travel down the side of your nose this way, 3. So I'm gonna show you how that might look when I turn this light off, ready? Okay, Kevin has pretty scary Van Dyke Z right now. Let me get my eyes correct. So check this out, ready? 1, 2, 3. There's a Z right here. Now, if you can lock in that Z, then you can find, once you found this information right here, then you can find where that is. It's so much easier to land the nose and that Z first, and then to find that far eye, than it is to try to find both eyes at the same time. So, all right, I'm back. I hope I look a little bit better. This way, less sinister. The shadow shape. And then we are going to find the shadow shape for the eyeball itself, like the eyelid. And I think it roughly sits right here. My drawing, I could tell you for sure, is not gonna be too accurate, but quick sketch from just what I'm looking at in front of me. I think everything's landing in a decent way. There's this little line right here at the corner of his nose. And there's a scientific name for this line, and I don't care for it. It's where there's several muscle groups and it's hard to explain everything. I call this line the laugh line. So if you look at my face, I have right here, you see these lines? That's what a 43-year-old man has. And I call it the laugh line because when you laugh, and you go like that, they get pronounced. So go ahead and laugh. I'll try to make a really funny, no, I won't try to make a funny joke. I'm not that funny. But if you smile, go like that. Ha, I made Hannah laugh. Hannah's laughing pretty hard at my joke that wasn't a joke. Go like that, and you can see those lines. Those lines really help you find a drawing. So, okay, so I have this locked in. I have a lot of my shapes locked in now. Maybe if I want, I'll just put in his far shoulder right here. And then I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna kind of clean up the drawing. And in cleaning up the drawing, I'm just getting rid of those early ghost-like searching marks. And just tidying that up right there. Now this is the fun step. I'm gonna take my pencil, this is an F pencil. If you only have a 2B pencil, like a normal yellow pencil, you could do everything I'm doing today. But I'm just showing you how to use the pencils in a little bit more of an advanced way. Now this pencil right here is a 2B pencil. That's like a basic yellow pencil. And now I'm gonna fill in the shadow shape. And I'm gonna do so in a blanketed way. I'm not going to pull out all the information within the shadows. If I wanted to, I could go really crazy trying to find this nostril in the shadow. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna let everything kind of like melt together in the shadows. So there's an old saying in drawing, in painting, and my teacher would trace it back to the French Academy, and who knows, perhaps it goes beyond the 19th century, perhaps the saying goes all the way back hundreds of years, but the saying was, look at the shadows, not into the shadows. Okay, so I have that boundary between light and dark locked in. I have the shadows now masked out. Can you see how the drawing is starting to come alive? It's pretty cool. You can start to get like the sense of the form of the thing just by mapping out these patterns. So I only went for the darkest darks and the lightest lights, and already it's starting to like kind of take form. There, I'll say, is the top of the ear here. We'll have this information within the ear. Again, there's names for all these areas of our anatomy, of our head. There's names for everything, but it's not worthwhile to go into that right now. We're just focusing on the broadest possible idea. All right, so now that I have that, I'm gonna give my pencil a little bit of a sharpen. Remember, this is just sandpaper from the hardware store. And I just got that a little bit sharper. I wipe it down like so. And then now I'm gonna start going a little bit more specific on the outside, which is what we call the external contour. And a little bit more here, a little bit more up there. And as you go a little bit more specific on these things, you can feel the form starting to take shape. I went a little bit too far out, probably with his ear here, I think. So I'm just gonna pull that in just a little bit. Just coming in here, going back over to the jaw on this side. Okay, so now there's a bit of shade down here below the chin, and I'm not gonna get too involved just because this is a shorter class. I'm not gonna get too involved with below the chin where the neck meets the torso. So I'm just gonna kind of let it fade out like that. Now, one of the things you'll notice is this area right here is all empty. See how that's all empty right there? What you want to do when you're faced with like a broad like chasm of emptiness right here, now what you want to do is you can start to find what are called the halftones. So I call this area right here the deep shadow. That's my particular term, or deep shade. The halftones are when you start to get this really soft, gentle information. Like let's say where the cheekbone turns right here. There is, let's say right here, there's the circle of the chin, and right above it, there is a gentle halftone where it turns. There's another halftone right here on the lip. So now as I start to get into the halftones, like let's say the bottom of the eye right here, it's non-existent, right? So the bottom of the eye to me is somewhere between the world of halftones and deep shade. One artist would have put it in deep shade. I chose to put it in the halftones. It doesn't really matter. But maybe when I get over to this, what I can also do is switch back to a 2H pencil. And now I can start to find all these shapes the same way that I found the shadow shapes before. I can find the shadow shapes here. So here is the underside of the eye. Right there. Now remember, with all these things, you could push everything we're doing here hours more. I've worked on drawings like this when I lived in Italy. I attended the oldest active atelier in all of Europe, the Charles Cecil Studios, which in my opinion is one of the greatest schools in the world. And I would spend on a drawing like this, like probably 4 or 5 days. So you can push all this so much further. There's a halftone right here, coming down right below the eye, another halftone at the bag of the eye right here. He has where the bridge of the nose meets the forehead right here. There is a plane change. And there's a halftone there. Where the bridge meets right here, there's a halftone. And now on the whole head right here, it's kind of bleached out in the photo, but let's say there's a halftone on the side of his brow ridge right here. There's a halftone here. There's a halftone here. And now you can start to see the dimension coming in. Now, I already said something in this lesson, but I think it's worthwhile to say it again. This is not the only way to draw someone's portrait. I don't like it when artists make it as if they possess the lone secrets that no other artist on the face of planet Earth understands. And if you only sign up for my website and buy my DVD for $4,000, then you too can paint like Rembrandt. I don't like that kind of stuff because the Russians and constructivist artists in New York City and different things, they have a way of building up for portraits. And then the observational artists work like, let's say, much more like I'm working right now, where they build it up by observation. I think an artist who really wants to grow needs to learn all these different approaches. And so you could see the whole entire thing really starting to like take shape. I'm not saying that it has arrived and it looks like incredible or anything like that, but I do feel that the drawing has like a compelling mass to it, and it has a believability. And so as you work on your pieces, so I thought it'd be fun to pause for right now at the end of this lesson. Again, I'll be taking this drawing, I'll be pushing it much, much further, and you can watch me do an accelerated version of it. But I thought it'd be fun to show you the painting that I did with John Monteleone, and to show you a portrait drawing progress shot, so you can see my drawing of John Monteleone sped up. That is me laying in, and you can see a lot of the same principles that I use today. A lot of those same principles are at play in this drawing that I'm doing of John. And now you can see I'm starting to move into paint.